All right, enough of me. I now want to turn it over to my main man, Jeff Cruz. Jeff Cruz is an Adcraft board member and chief creative officer at MRM. He'll be moderating today's chat. Not only is he a great leader and a creative genius, Jeff is the heart behind the Day Show and our Tuesday Talk series. So, and he's a heck of an interviewer. So I'm excited to hit mute and turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you, Andrew. Hello, everyone. Really excited about today's Tuesday Talk with Joe. It truly is a connected by craft story. I was introduced to Mr. Staples through a mutual friend, Matt Honeycutt, who is director of production for Wieden+Kennedy Portland, where you'll soon discover that Joe also spent some time there as well. And Matt was a judge for us a few years back, and I was asking about, interesting people, and he very quickly brought up Joe's name. So I'm gonna let Joe tell you a little bit about where he's been and where he is now. But I will tell you, despite his pleas not to overhype him, he's an incredible storyteller, an engaging human, quite frankly. So I think you're really gonna enjoy today's session. And if he doesn't deliver, that's on me, Joe. It's all good. It's all good, man.
Thank you. Right, now I'm gonna let's see if I can do this. There you go. I think you can all see this. You can all see me too. Hey, thank you for the introduction. I look forward to disappointing everybody. Thank you, Matt Honeycutt. Thanks everyone for coming along. This is me. I'll talk very briefly about me, and then I'll talk about what I think craft is. Let's get into it. So I'm a partner. I run Mother Los Angeles, which is a 23-year-old independent creative agency from London. One of only 2 independent agencies in the world. I was previously a partner of the other one, the one in Portland, Oregon. I was at Wieden+Kennedy in Portland for 12 or 13 years and worked in their Amsterdam office and briefly in their London office. So I've been in independent agencies for probably 15 of my 20-ish year journey so far. Also, and importantly for this chat today, I've been studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for almost a decade and have a brown belt under UFC fighter Kenny Florian and US judo champion Jason Hunt. I have a padded garage. I fight most days, I roll and train most days, and also help teach kids classes, which my son is in, but have been helping teach the kids classes for a few years. For me, Jiu-Jitsu was a really important discovery. I grew up in South London in the 90s as a teenager. It was an incredibly violent place, and the violence was all about ego. It was about how much of a nutter are you? How much have you drunk and how much of a nutter are you? And I'm the worst drinker in the world and not that much of a nutter. So to find jiu-jitsu, which is the study of fighting, they call it physical chess. So it is how to dismantle someone physically when they don't want to be dismantled. So for me, I had a reasonably not really a violent upbringing, a very physical upbringing. I have dyslexia, which changes the way my brain processes information. And then to find jiu-jitsu, which is the physical version of the thing I was doing in my day-to-day life. So all creative people should be studying jiu-jitsu because we'll find it really easy because it's creativity physically. I have no cartilage in my nose, which you probably won't get a preview of. And you've already heard this stupid voice I have. So let's get into this. Here's the thing about jiu-jitsu that I'm going to talk about first. I'm going to talk about the craft of fighting. This is not the whole presentation. Don't worry. Now, for any people there've got to be some few jiu-jitsu people in the audience here. Ignore leg locks for a second. Yes, I love leg locks. This is how you fight. If I'm fighting against a 250-pound dude who can swing and literally knock my head off my shoulders, the first thing I have to do, here's my diamond and time at the top. Here's the first thing we do. We all start standing. When you fight, it could be in a pub, it could be on a beach, it could be in a park, it could be Let's not say place of work. It could be anywhere other than place of work, but it's standing. For me, against a massive, strong dude, I'm not a massive, strong dude. To negate all of their advantages, I take them onto the floor. If I want to take someone down and they're not a trained wrestler, they're going to go down real easy. And when they're down, here's what I have to do. You throw them or trip them or wrestle them to the ground, and then I have to get past their legs. So I take them down, and we call the guard. Your legs are what guard you. So I've got to pass the guard. Now, takedowns. You study takedowns for years and years and years. We study Sambo takedowns and judo takedowns and wrestling takedowns. And we study them over and over and over again. And we're going to do arm drags. And we're going to do single legs. And we can do double legs. And we can do high crotch over and over and over again. Repetition. Drillers are killers. I pass the guard. I get past the legs. At the point I get past the legs, I secure the position. I pin them. Now, it's going to seem like that's not possible for a 160, 70 pound runner. It's not hard at all. So if you go into a jiu-jitsu place and challenge anyone, they'll hold you down for as long as they want to. And then once the position is secured, I submit them. Now, each one of these things is studyable. There are books written on each. There are DVDs written on each. There are experts in each. We study all of them. We study every single bit of it. So if you see a jiu-jitsu fight, it'll look like two monkeys rolling around, but every single movement that they make is studied. And you can see it goes out like this. Here's where I start, fact. We start standing. Here's where we finish, fact, submission. This is the journey of jiu-jitsu, taking somebody around a city they've never been to. Really, really important. So this is how it applies to the craft of ideas. I feel like we don't study. Certainly creative departments very rarely study. For me, I was a creative director about 15 years ago. And up until that point, I'd had some fantastic, fantastic creative directors. But I'd also had some creative choosers, which is not creative directing. Creative choosing is where somebody says, put more ideas on the wall, and then they'll tell you which one's right. I think that that is outdated. I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it builds great creatives. Hopefully, of the departments I've worked with, hopefully people have got smarter. Hopefully people worry less. Certainly, if you do the thing I'm doing, writer's block is not a thing because we never get stuck. So what if everybody else was as lax about training as us? Here's some feedback I've been given. I'm sure there's hundreds of people that are going to say, I've been given that advice. Keep going. You've been told to keep going before. This is what happens if you keep going and you're an electrician. Fucking keep going, dude. That's not direction. It's great. But what about my idea? Every creative has been told that before. That's what happens. Work on it for a bit and we'll figure out the brief when we have something. We've all heard this. That's what happens. I like both ideas. How many times do we hear this stuff? That's wet feet time. I feel like I've seen it, changed a bit. And does it have too many steps? Yeah, it does, dude. It has too many steps. And fuck it up more. This, I'm talking directly to Matt Honeycutt when I say the first piece of creative advice Susan Hoffman ever gave me was fuck it up more. I will say at the time, it absolutely worked for me, but this piece of advice only works once. Don't get here. So no one else is as with their training of creativity because we think that creativity is magic. We think that you put these special pampered creatives in a room and then they come out with a rabbit that they just pulled out of their butt or a hat. And I don't buy it. And as a dyslexic and as someone with ADHD, you can't concentrate. I can't work like that. So what I have to do is I have to give myself a diamond, much like the diamond of success in jiu-jitsu. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about problem solving and what I think a problem is and what kind of problems we solve. And then I'll see if I can quickly go through the rest of it. I've got 25 minutes. There's nothing to look at here. So I'm going to talk for 2 minutes. So this is the concentrating bit. This is the only heavy bit. I think that an idea is a solution to a problem. If you can see me, I'm doing jazz hands. An idea is a solution to a problem. And there are only two kinds of problems. The way we experience the world and the way we understand the world. The way we experience the world is normally solved by a thing, a cup, a can of beans, a car. That's how we experience the world. We drink, we eat, we drive. And then it's how we understand the world. and understand that what is normally narrative. It's stuff as old as time. It's how societies grow. It's how culture grows. Normally in advertising, our clients deal with how we experience the world. They make a thing, and normally we explain how the thing fits into the world. If the way the thing, you experience it and you understand it, overlap properly, perfect. But so much of the time, these things do not align. So here is an example. This is the Citroen DS from 1972, I think. And you can see that headlight. When you turn the steering wheel, the headlight turns. 40 years later, Ford released exactly the same technology. And it's because Citroen changed the way we experience the world, but didn't explain how we understand the world. So that's the weight that I carry, and really most of us carry, whether you know it or not, which is, how does this thing sit in the world? So I want to take you through a process of how to have ideas that solve problems. And here is my well-researched and highly successful and incredibly proprietary and trademarked diamond of success for ideas not fighting this time. Now, you don't have to remember any of that because we're going to go through that stuff. The important thing to know here is that time, I'm assuming you guys can see me, time starts at the top and goes down, and you work your way through. So we used to have standing, take down, pass guard, secure position, submit. In advertising, we're going to talk about honesty, and we're going to get to success. I'm trying to write a book on this, so putting this into a presentation has been a challenge, but an awesome challenge. So this is a dry run, and we'll see how we go. So here we go. This is what the presentation is going to look like. I'm going to just slowly go through each little bit. So curiosity. This is normally what strategists do, but I think in a good creative agency, strategy, creativity, mothering, as we call it at Mother, which is account managing and project managing, they kind of overlap. So how do people choose the product? Minivans are a super weird one. I can talk for hours about minivans. I love talking about minivans. Minivans are not bought on TV ads. There's no relationship between TV ads for minivans and sales of minivans. There's popularity of ad. So if anyone comes to me with the rapping parents one, it didn't necessarily change that much. It changed the understanding of minivans, but not necessarily the sale. I think that's because minivans are a head purchase and TV is a heart medium, to be incredibly simplistic. The guys that test minivans are also the guys that test Corvettes. So it's not tested by the people that drive them. There's so much weird stuff going on. To understand this is a strategist and a creative, and it's about being super fucking curious all the time. How's this product made? This is an ad I wrote with the runner there. That's Lauren Fleshman, US Olympian. At the time, Nike were the only company that were making shoes for women. That sounds super weird. Everybody else was doing this thing called shrink it and pink it. They were just making small pink versions of men's shoes. So we went to the design place together. We talked about this. And what we wanted to talk about is how to, we make shoes differently. And who buys this product? I didn't do this work. I was at Wieden when this work was done. For me, the genius is the strategy of this work. The creatives are brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. But the strategy was that they found that 52% of men's shower gel is bought by wives and girlfriends. And that's really obvious when you then hear, hello, ladies. So this has been copied and parodied many, many times. No one really listened to it. This is an ad for a men's product for women. So this is how you find out what's going on behind the scenes. How is this working? Honesty. The strategist takes this, all of this learning of how the world works. How does the business work? How do these people make money? What did they do before? Where did they come from? Who's their competitors? What's happening in China? What's happening? Taking all that stuff and bring it down to this no bullshit, very sharp point, essentially a tweetable moment. Now, I've worked with some brilliant strategists. Some reason they all seem to have survived cancer or been alcoholics or some combination of this, which is they've got no time for messing around. Just tell me what the freaking truth is and don't sugarcoat it. So here's an ad I hope no one did here that I don't like. And I don't like it because I don't think it's true. I love Subaru as a brand. I lived in Portland. Like, I think Matt would say maybe 93% of the cars in Portland are Subarus. The WRX is incredible. The WRX STI is bananas. The Foresters is a fantastic car, but it's not a goosebump car. It's certainly not a goosebump car on the road, And it's certainly not a goosebump car on the road in the dry with an overcast sky. It's a photo which makes it true with a conceit that makes it completely not true. And the reason is because usually clients, and I'm sure there's lots of clients here, want everyone to love their product. And so they just espouse love, 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 love. It's not always based in truth. So I'm going to say that this is far, far, far more true. It's a cartoon, not real, about superheroes, not real, but resonates with millions and millions of people because it's built in fallibility and honesty. So I'm going to take you through some honesty for a second and then tell you what kind of work you get to make. If you can be honest about what you're doing, this is not in my presentation, but Mother did some famous work 20 years ago in the UK for super noodles, bachelor super noodles. You have to look at it afterwards. And the guy who wrote it, I said, how did you sell the idea? And he goes, I just got the client to admit that it was shit in a sack. I'm like, what the fuck? If you admit that these super noodles are shit in a sack, we can change your brand. And the brand got like 1,000% increase in sales. It massively, massively famous, changed culture in the UK. So if you can admit that Old Spice is what your creepy uncle, grandpa, and dad smell of, you get to the privilege to do work that responds to it. This work reframed age as experience. Incredible. Shampoo and washing detergents don't help Olympic athletes. Procter & Gamble had spent hundreds of millions of dollars to tell people that they were the Olympic sponsor. This is a hard conversation. Your products don't help Olympic athletes. The brief was, how do we help Olympic athletes? They don't. But if you admit that, you get to do work that responds to it. Old people think golf is a game of tradition, right? We have to be able to talk about old people and golf. We have to be able to talk about white dudes wearing weird pimp clothing. We have to have these weird conversations. If we could admit that, we get to then reframe golf as a game of innovation. Because if you take it back to the source, golf has changed so much. Then there's a space for Nike, a brand of innovation, to talk about a sport of innovation. You get to debunk all the myths. And then along the lines of everyone likes honesty until we're honest about them, Detroit is fucked. It's a post-apocalyptic wasteland. This is not my view. This is the view of people in America. We have to be able to have that conversation. I was lucky enough that when I did say this, I was saying it to a Frenchman and a dude who traveled the world and understood perspective. That's really hard. It doesn't mean it's true. It means it's what people think. If you do that, you get to write work that responds to it. And if you base this stuff in honesty, it's so disarming. No one sees this stuff coming. And I mean, at Wieden, Matt will tell you there are, maybe this is old, maybe this is 10 years ago, but people used to have this thing stuck near their desks. So many people that said, if people talk to people the way advertising people talk to people, they'd get punched in the face. And all I tried to do here was have a conversation that I could sit at a bar with a half-drunk 50-year-old steel worker and go, yeah, you're right. Hand on heart, honest, right. Collaboration. How am I doing for time here? I need to talk quickly, huh? This is what people think of as collaboration. It's really romantic. But let me just talk about the difference between a good agency with a creative culture and an agency that's really tough, normally big. In somewhere big and massive, where it's about serving a client, not making a client successful, the creatives sit in rooms, they close the doors, they close the curtains, they get a brief under the door. When they get an idea, they just stiff arm everyone, stiff arm the planner, stiff arm the account person, stiff arm business affairs, stiff arm the client, stiff arm the director, stiff arm everyone. At some point, maybe they end up on stage, they pick up their stupid gold thing and then go back and then start the process of stiff arming people again. If you want to work in a creative culture, this is what you have to do, I think. I think it's true of the independent places I've worked, definitely Mother, definitely Wieden, is you collaborate. You spend more time with strategists than you've ever done before. You sit with account people, you sit with producers, you sit with media people, and you say, I think we've got something. And they look over and go, that's pretty good. Can I help you with it? Let's do this thing together. If at some point you do end up on a stage with a stupid gold thing, there'll be 100 people with you because it's the process of collaboration. So we have an honest conversation. What is this product about? It's a shitty plastic water bottle that can hold something that will help you run further. What's the simplest thing we can say? Then it's about collaboration with the most amount of people you can. We're getting broader and broader and broader. I haven't talked about ads yet. I haven't talked about ads yet. Dissatisfaction. It's our job to be professionally dissatisfied. This is a brilliant book. Everyone should get it. Ask me the name at the end. How Things Don't Work. It will make you look around your home and think that everything's shit. Sinks are crap. Showers are crappy. Showers, you're wet, you're naked, and you're soapy and slippery. And you surround yourself with glass. It's stupid. Brilliant book. Have a look at that. Here's something that makes me fucking annoyed every time I see it for sale. That's a Trojan horse. Here's the story. The horse gets through the gate of the city because it appears to be safe. And then under cover of darkness, some naughty little soldiers come out and ransack the town. This is the only thing that you shouldn't name a condom. It's the only job of a condom is to not let the little flipping soldiers to ransack the town. So be dissatisfied, look around, ponder what's going on. I'm working on running shoes. Why is no one running? I'm working on running shoes. Why are people getting injured? I'm working on running shoes. Why are there not people of color running? Be dissatisfied, constantly dissatisfied. Ebullience, a word I only learned a few months ago. I sound a little smarter because of it. It's optimistic curiosity and energy. Maybe the opposite, it's the flip side of dissatisfaction. Be excited by the changes you can make. So then we start to go, what could it be? What could it be? What could it be? No ads yet. No ads yet. I drew that there. Hopefully you can all see it. I worked in an outdoor store that sold boat shoes when I was 19 years old. That's how they're supposed to be done up tight. That little loop is between the thing, so it pulls the heel in. People don't seem to know that, but like, be excited by finding this stuff out. Honey, we work on food clients on Postmates and on Sonic. And so I just read about food all day as much as I can. Good honey doesn't have a use by date. So honey will last longer than you will, which is amazing, amazing, amazing. And then trust. Firstly, don't trust anyone that asks for it. But there's a moment where we need trust. This was the diamond of success for Sonic. I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to hope no one memorizes it all. But you have to be able to put stupid stuff down. That's the trust. You have to be able to fail publicly. You have to be able to collaborate and trust each other to move forwards. So you can see we're going, ideas are getting wider and wider. This is the way to think about it. As broad a conversation as you can have when working on something is the propensity for the work to be good. And then as succinctly as you can make the broadest conversation is as good as the work is. And I'll tell you later if you want about the conversations we had on this. Tone. Lots of people were going to recognize that. That is Detroit. This was, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 10 years ago at Wieden. And we were talking, I'd worked on Dodge for a couple of years. I'd been to Detroit every month. Been to ball games. I'd eaten out. I'd wandered the streets. I'd stayed in hotels. I was far from a local, but I was certainly really fucking pissed off the way I heard people talking about Detroit who'd never fucking been there. I mean, I'd been there how many times? 10 times. Certainly, I claim no super knowledge of Detroit, but it was annoying to see French, like fucking hipster photographers doing ruin porn of places, like just taking it, kind of raping it and selling it in a gallery. And it was really annoying to me. So this was presented and I was getting excited. Someone from Detroit, Dan Kroger, presented and his art director presented this. And they said, look at this. They laid it down. Like I'm going to lay it down. Beautiful. Look at this. Beautiful. Look at this. Incredible. Is that Prague? It's fucking Michigan. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Laid out one by one a page that could be any European city. And he said, I don't know if anyone's read the Bruce Mao book, Lifestyles. They talk about rebranding Switzerland and they do it in a kind of silly way. They call it Switzerland. They say it's the most Switz place ever. And I think he was just thinking about that. So he showed me all this stuff and he said, did you know that Detroit used to be called the Paris of the Midwest? Like, I didn't know that. And he goes, why don't we rebrand Detroit Detroit? Let's say imported from Detroit. And I fucking blew a gasket. My parents are trade unionists, been political their whole lives. I'm like, do you know what's going on in the city and you're making a fucking joke out of it? This is not a joke. This is not fucking Old Spice. This is offensive to me. This, however, is really good. So that was an idea with the wrong tone. So once you've had the broadest stuff, you start talking about What's the emotion? What's the emoji? Is this a smile emoji? Is this the emoji? This one here, I knew from the beginning, I did not know the idea, but I was pretty sure I need to be able to bang my fucking fist on a table and say whatever. This is before the line. I want to be able to say this. Imported from Detroit is not a smash. Imported from Detroit is a fucking smash. So tone, really important. Rigor, really important. This is some work we've been doing here, which is for Postmates, the delivery app. The rigor that we did here is to be really, really honest about our relationship with food, and then to execute as simply as possible. How can we say delivery app that you crave? So as everybody else is talking about, we can get it there in 12 minutes. We can get it there in 13 minutes. We can give you 8% off. We can give you 12% off. $1 on your first 7 orders. All the practical shit, which assumes that food is about satiation, speed of satiation, which is not the conversation humans have about food. It's about crave. It's about, God, I just like, hopefully weed's legal where you are. I'm going to say something. I was thinking the other day, like this tiny little bit of weed chocolate. It's 1,000 calories. If you count the ice cream and Cheerios you eat with it. So that's the stupid shit you got to talk about. So how can we show craving, humanity, and almost nothing else? I'm going to say that Postmate It, which the client made us put on, does not need to be there. So how can we pare this down? A hungry daughter is just a small, angry roommate. That's all you need. Everybody knows the rest. This billboard makes you hungry, but not enough to drive. Doesn't really need Postmate on it. I don't know, maybe. Don't play games with your stomach's heart. It's a brilliant line, I think. I didn't write it. It's a fantastic line. And when influencers lay siege to your favorite brunch spot, and if you can't stand the traffic heat, stay out of the traffic kitchen. I think it could be simpler. It doesn't need to say Postmate. So this is something weird that isn't that great. And then I think I'm going really good and really fast for time, and we can talk for, because one of the last pages is craft. Now, I was asked to talk about craft. I studied design. I went to St. Martin's, like a famous art college, and it's not false modesty. I've just presented you a diamond with my name on it, so you know it's not false modesty. I'm just garbage at design. And I think I'm an art director's worst nightmare, which is I'm not good at it, but know enough to be dangerous. So I do know how to kern. I'm just not a good designer. So when it comes to craft, I have to fall back on what I think I'm okay at, which is idea, which is concept. And hopefully you're starting to see it's about humanity and honesty. So I always go back to, why are we doing it? What's the best way to simply do it? So I've got 2 examples here. The bottom right is a photo from a Dodge shoot where we had George Washington driving Challenger against people with my accent, which was not the most comfortable set to be on. But here's what we did. We went to the John Adams studio. We borrowed the prosthetic nose that was literally used on Washington in the HBO show, I think. We did our castings with a note in front of us to make sure we had the right, like, perfect guy. And then for the shoot, normally a client would ask for 300-400 digital files. I think we took maybe 2 images, because we found a guy who ran a historic photo society and had a plate camera from the 1870s. And we paid for him to drive a U-Haul truck that he made into a darkroom, into a field in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's very hard to take these photos. So I think we got maybe 2, which is not good numbers for an advertising client. And one of them is literally perfect, but it was authentic to the thing we're trying to do, even though there's a car in it. The one above that is Sonic, which I work on now and love working on. Our idea was to show the breadth of conversation from home to a Sonic, between then and ordering, between then and eating, to celebrate the journey as much as the thing you're eating when you get there, and to do it with real people. Now, I've been doing advertising for 20 years, and how many fake real people like have I seen? Like, oh wow, this car's amazing. Oh wow, this house is amazing. Oh wow, this drink's amazing. All actors. So we went to, there's a UK show called Gogglebox, and I think it's maybe called The People's Couch in America. We went to the production company in the Valley. I'm in LA, so we drove up to the Valley, went to the production company, and we said, have you done ads before? Reality TV shows? We know you're amazing at reality. Have you done ads before? And they said, we know nothing about it. So we know about it. We want your expertise. So we worked with a reality TV show production company, which means no director, which means no scripts. So that is when you go on this journey and you collaborate with a client the whole time, you're honest at every fucking step. You get to the point where you can say to a client, we don't have any scripts and we don't have any director, and it's going to be great because we're working our tail off to make this thing brilliant. And we learn about how to make reality TV. We learn about mazes. They literally call them mazes. How to give one of these people, I mean, a director would call it direction, but how to give one person one set of inputs and another person the other. There's an amazing family called the Navarros in this. And we said to the mum and dad, hey, the son's London. We said, hey, London's kind of going crazy. Like, just don't give him any of the ice cream, okay? And they said, no problem. And we said to London, hey, London, you've been amazing today. Like, fantastic. So we're going to do ice cream now. Think you deserve it. And we step back. And then we film it. Then we put ice creams in the car and we see what happens. He goes, can I have some? I've been working. I've done my homework. So like nothing in there, other than the name of the product, which we have to tell them. Nothing's written, nothing's staged. So I have all these spots. Some of them I think is brilliant. We just sold ice. And I didn't write any of it. So it's just be honest to the idea you have. Oh, what happened there? Hello? Hello?
I still hear you.
Oh, you can? Can you still see?
I can still see.
Oh, I might have to open it again if that's all right. Because let me move. Sorry, something happened and came in and I can't see what I'm doing now.
Yeah, you're still on your craft slide for the audience.
All right, well, if I click, do I go to the next slide?
Let's hope.
Well, I was ahead of time. This certainly gets me back on track. I may have to call in because I can't see anything now. Let me see if this will work.
Hey, Joe, you may have to just shut your presentation down and pop it back up because we can still see you and your craft slide.
Okay, well, I know what the next is. I just can't. Oh, here we go. There we go. I'm back. Sorry about that. So this is it. This is essentially my whole presentation, if you're seeing it there. So this is, in my mind, how to focus. In the first agency I ever worked at, I maybe been doing advertising for 6 months, and there was a woman there called Tanya, and she was a traffic manager. And I think she realized that my brain went a little bit too fast for me to be able to drive it very well. So you guys can see me, right?
Yes, sir.
She bought me these, and this is probably my 5th pair. I have yellow $20 workman earphones, right? And she would come along and she'd have a piece of paper like this, and she'd put it in front of me, and she'd say, hey, I just need you to think about Nike, about this, but I only need you to think. She'd give me a really specific task, a puzzle, and she'd give me my earphones, and I was like, it was like something from Who's on Third Base? Who's on Third Base? She'd put my earphones on, and I would sit there, and it's just heaven on earth. I would think about, what am I dissatisfied about in the running area? And I'd be like, why does this happen? Why does this happen? Why does this happen? Why does this happen? And then I would start thinking, oh, you could do this. So I'm not saying you won't have ideas on the journey. I'm just saying, don't get a brief and go, what could we do? Get a brief and then find out as much as you can. Be dissatisfied about what currently exists. Get excited about what could exist. Then have a bunch of ideas. What could solve it? Still not ads. Just big ideas. That's when you get trust with a client. We think this is interesting. We think this is interesting. We think this is, what do you think is interesting? Then you get to a couple of them. Then you start figuring out, am I angry? Is this a joke? Is this stupid? Be very something. People that work with me hear that too many times. Be very happy. Be very angry. Be very frustrated. Be very excited. Whatever the thing is, be very, and then do it in its simplest form, and then be honest and authentic. when you get to it, and that will get you to success. It's certainly, I think, in my mind, got me to success. Whether that is awards which you can care about or not care about, work you're really proud of that I hope everyone cares about, and success for clients, which again, I hope everyone cares about. That's my form of success. Choose whichever one you want. Obviously, Warren and Jay, first name basis guys, they're collaborating on the book with me. You'll see them throw up the Joe Staples Diamond of Success slide all the time. That's me. I think I did it in an okay time today.
You crushed it. Well done. Way to hit your time, even despite the technical difficulties.
Maybe
I told y'all he was going to be amazing. You definitely delivered. You crushed it. So thank you. For folks in the audience, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the Q&A. I'll give that a couple beats. So I've got a couple pocket questions. I'm stealing a page from Casey Herbert's playbook and interviewing and just rapid fire questions. You ready, Joe?
Probably not. Let's see what happens.
Let's see how this goes. It's going to be amazing. Obviously, you got a very informed point of view. You've got the amazing diamond. What is the best piece of advice you received and really stuck with you?
Can I elaborate though? Because it's not a yes/no answer.
Yes, please.
It was a creative director who wasn't very good, and I think I've only worked with 3 in my career. I've been very, very blessed. Leaving Nike with a brief for the World Cup, and they just said, "Here's 7 athletes and a shoe. Do something amazing." And we're driving back to Wieden, and this not very good creative director, and I'm moaning, I'm being dissatisfied, and I said, "Fucking Nike! Every fucking time they give us the ingredients for bread." And then they ask for a fucking cake. You can't make it. You can't do it. And he said, wrong food analogy. I was like, what do you mean? He says, it's Mexican food. What? And he goes, you look at the history of Nike football ads. It's all the same ingredients. From the beginning, it's always been 7 best players in the world, this boot, and then articulate creativity and rebellion. So if you know, what I took from that is, if you know what is immovable, sounds a bit like the Serenity Prayer. Don't fight it. So there are some things where you're like, the client's product is not good now. It's going to be good in a year's time. We dealt with that on Dodge. It's going to be good. So don't tell everyone it's good. So it's fight and change the things that you can change. So don't, like, I'm a junior creators complain about absolutely everything. And then hopefully when you get a little bit more mature, you complain about only some things.
Nice. So is that the best piece of advice you've given, is sharing that very same advice?
I mean, I have advice for everything. You've seen it today. Surely I've given like 100 things. But certainly for me, as an angsty South Londoner, I just was like, oh, you mean don't worry about half the shit? Yeah, don't worry about half the shit.
Yeah, nice. If you weren't ECD or even creative, what would you be doing?
I love so many, I don't know. I could be a full-time dad and be 100% satisfied. I race bikes and I try and run as far as I try and run long distances on trails. I could do that. I've been a paper boy, love that. I worked on a fruit and veg market on a barra boy in South London, love that. I've loved everything. So
you can find something
anything you want. What you got?
Nice. So a colleague actually asked me a pretty intriguing question about what they thought, or tell her what she thought my superpower, and this was in the work contest, was. So what is your superpower?
The relationship between learning and teaching, I think. Both my parents teachers. I grew up undiagnosed dyslexic, so it meant I had to learn in a different way, which means I think I can think quite complexly, but I can't necessarily articulate quite complex things. So I love learning, and I love finding a way to learn and kind of masticate in and getting all that stuff inside me. And then how do I feed the baby chicks? So actually, here's what it would be, is what would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? I feel like I'm a teacher now, right? I mean, as an ECD, part of my job is a teacher of process and a teacher of standard. And I would do that in jiu-jitsu. I would open a jiu-jitsu academy, and hopefully I'm going to do that in Mother. That's the other little is if you do buy a new building, hopefully we're going to have a community-based jiu-jitsu academy in Mother. So we'll see.
Whoa. Wow. This just in. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple questions from the crowd. When a product or process has flaws, would you address this honestly with cutting into your brand's equity, or is this more an opportunity to pivot?
That is a very intelligent question. That it depends entirely on all the rest of the context. So if I just give an example, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, not knowing that was coming, but when we first started working with Dodge, they still had all their old models. There was no new Dodge Dart. There was no. It wasn't the year for them to do new things. They brought all these new people in who were going to figure out that the door panels were going to line up. And you weren't going to cut your arm when you put it on the side there because it wasn't going to be plastic from an Atari from 1982. But it hadn't happened yet. So the truth is we had the conversation. We said, there's some shit going on here. Like you made a V6, you truly just got a V8 and chopped 2 off. Like that's fucking lame. We know. So we had the honest conversation. So there's no pressure to lie. And then we were clear. Do not ask us to do ads about how body panels line up brilliantly, because they don't. Talk about this thing. So that's why we did muscle car ads like the ones you saw. And we did ads that I true hand on heart say and I had an SRT Challenger. It's the first car I ever drove. I learned to drive and then I got one of those. It's a stupid purchase, but it's really good fun. So we made ads that were stupid and really good fun. So did that kind of answer it?
It did indeed.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna love this one. Easier to take down, an angry client or Kenny Florian?
Oh, that's rare. Very, very good question. I have fought Kenny Florian a lot of times. Normally, when you take Kenny down, it's because he doesn't mind being taken down. Normally, he's gone like, sure, whatever. But the only thing worse than grappling with Kenny is doing stand-up with him, because he's like the most evil, and we do some stand-up. He's just the most evil striker ever and the nicest guy. So I'm going to say clients.
Client. All right. And then one was a little more on how have you turned dyslexia into a tool for business and creativity? You've kind of touched on it, but maybe give a little more on that one.
Yeah, it is creativity. Dyslexia forces you to figure process out, because if you don't, you're kind of, my son who's out there being on a Zoom much like this learning now is dyslexic too. So I have to break his day and his time into moments and give him boxes to think in. We're doing this now, we're doing this now, we're doing this now, not da 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 da. I feel like that really suits problem solving. It really suits advertising. It sounds really lame for somebody who's supposed to be creative and do magic to say it's actually hard work and systems. I also can't deny that my brain works differently. There's a lovely book called The Gift of Dyslexia, and it basically lays that out, which is life's going to suck for a while because teachers in the world aren't set up for you. If you can get past that, dyslexia, you just solve problems so fast. Your brain is built to problem solve because your life is a problem. So it's that kind of 100,000 hours thing.
Thank you. When we were prepping for this, I told you we'd have a pretty interesting mix of folks in there, including some people who are just getting into the business. So the question is, as an honorable industry expert, that's their words, what advice would you give to a 21-year-old senior college student looking to make the largest impact on a team fresh out of school?
Wait, can you tell me, so like what should you do when you get out of school and you want to do big stuff?
Yeah, what's the secret to success to make the largest impact, right from the beginning, I guess.
There's a kind of silly book, a Paul Arden book called It's Not How Good You Are, It's How Good You Want to Be. I think that this is a strange dichotomy that we have to wrestle with, right? Which is you have to want to be the best in the world, right? To win the biggest awards, if that's the thing you want to do, to run the best agencies, if that's whatever the thing is, you have to set it that high. And then you have to ignore it a little bit. It's like the process we've gone through here, which is, I think too many young people are taught by all media and parents to only focus on that. So there was an amazing dude who worked in the mailroom, who's now creative, worked in the mailroom at Wieden, who I'm friends with. And I'd always just go and chat, and he would say, I want to be a creative, I want to be a creative, I want to be a creative. And at some point he said, I want to be the creative director of Nike. I was like, great, but let's get you out of the mailroom first, right? So just do the thing that you're doing better than anyone on earth. So if you're a junior creative, here's something else I believe, that the amount of good ideas you have depends almost entirely on the amount of bad ideas you have. Now, I've had so many because I've been doing it for so long. I've had so many bad ideas. So the chance of me getting to a good idea faster is probably better, right? This is literally one of the things Kenny Florian says, which is, who do you think in this academy has tapped out the most? And then you think about it and you realize it's him. Of course it's him, because he's been training for 25 years. So he's failed more. So I would say, just be willing to fail, just work way harder. Like, be the last to leave, be the first to get there, take the extra brief. Let me give you another one. I know I'm going to ramble for a bit. There was this now, frankly, fucking terrifying show that all kids in England used to watch when I was young, called Wurzel Gummidge. Sounds like I'm making this all up. I know in my accent, I get it. It was about a scarecrow that could literally take his head off. It was horrific. He would go into a shed and he'd be like, "Arr!" And he would take his head off and he would put on, "Oh, I'm going out tonight," and he'd put a new head on, right? It was so freaking scary. But what I would say was, put the work head on, do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Then put on the one where you think, what's good? Don't judge while doing. Come and say hello real quick. This is my son, Sonny. He's dyslexic too, and he's going to be a genius. He just wanted to come and say hello in between his classes.
Meh.
Okay. You're not gonna...
Jeff.
Yeah, that's Jeff. Now, Sonny, go. Go, buddy, please.
Wouldn't be a Zoom call without, a little bit of curveball.
Honey, close. Thank you. This is also what you can see is I realize when I hang out with my son, how frustrating it must be to work with me, because that's me.
Nah, I'm frustrated at all. Hey, and another one, because you tipped on the imported from Detroit, what was the brief that led to that work?
Can somebody scan through the people here and see if my clients are on? There wasn't really a brief. It was launched the Chrysler 200. So they'd had a Sebring and they were bringing that size car back. And we'd had lots of conversations about, and again, it's all diamond stuff, right? So let me give a minivan example. You might have to remind me of what the real question was, but let me just give an example. Is on the diamond, if you're working on minivans and the brief is most hip room in its class, and that's a brief I've got.
Yep.
If you have conversations about hip room, you're doomed to shit, because the diamond then looks like this. If people can see me, diamond looks like that. It's not even a diamond really. It's like the eye of Sauron or something, right? What you have to start talking about is why is the second biggest purchase of minivans retired grandparents? You have to have conversations about, why do we need more hip room? Is that diet? Are we getting fat? What about families? Are families getting bigger? What constitutes a family? Friendship groups. You have to talk about life and love. You have to go big. You have to go about the world. You have to talk about big stuff. And then you have to execute like that. So the brief was very thin, but this is the conversations you have to have is, the Sebring was not a success. And it was quite loved, but not very good. So you have to say, what's different? Why would someone not purchase it? In real traditional terms, what's the barrier to purchase? Now, I've been lucky enough to be able to afford a couple of nice watches. So I think it's really interesting when you think about where a watch is, the idea of a Swiss watch. That's just a watch built within certain borders, right? And you think about chocolate, and then you think about water. Like, why do we care which river or water came from? Because it's the same shit, right? So then you start talking about, why do we care where things are from? Now, normally you talk about brands and products. And in some categories, you talk about brand, product, and origin. And I just had the feeling, and when we had the conversations, it seemed to ring true, which was, one reason people might not buy it is they didn't trust the Sebring. The second one is that were they bailed out? What happened there? Do they owe money? Are they going to go? Are they owned by Italians? Like, there's just questions, but built on a foundation of Detroit is fucked. And if I buy a car now, the factory that makes the spare parts won't be open in a year. And I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that was the perception of millions of Americans. And what we had to do was tell the story of Detroit in the way Detroit would tell it. Now, I know that sounds weird because at the time I'm an English dude who'd never driven a car and didn't live in Detroit. But I was trying, hopefully people can appreciate, I was trying to do it in the most authentic way possible. I was trying not to fake the funk. I was trying to be true to people I'd grown to love and a city I thought was kind of amazing. So the brief was launch this new car. And the interrogation was, there's too many reasons people won't buy it. And we have to, and I'd been in it, I'd driven it, I'd got to try it. And I knew it wasn't a Sebring. And I knew I could say, this is really fucking good. If you've driven that, if your perception is that, it's not that. For sure, this is not a Porsche. For sure, this is not a $70,000 Mercedes. But holy shit, this is not the thing you're expecting it to be.
Nice. All right, one last one, just because you touched on several times about the importance of going wide. Like, yes, in some ways that part of the diamond is the most important. Yes. But in a world where deadlines are always tight, you never have enough time to do it right. We all know it so well. How do you make time? How do you find or accelerate? Is there a way to accelerate that process?
Yeah, and it's to slow down. That's the weird thing. It's like, you can do the diamond in a week. We do it all the time. You just do 2.5 days, 2.5 days. And this is the problem. I'm going to fuck up this quote, so I apologize. But there is a quote that says something like, I didn't have time to write you a short note, so I wrote you a long one. Yeah. Which is, if you're rushing, it doesn't mean you'll do something better. And I think that to slow down and not talk about advertising for a day or two, everyone's mind calms. You're not like, it's not a factory where we need to make 1,000 things. We need to make something pure that can become 1,000 things. So all I'm really doing is setting up the context for us to be truthful and to be honest, to solve real problems, to do it in a way that resonates with humans and become successful. So that's one of the things is, it would be nice to get more time, 100%. But because you have no time doesn't mean work faster. It just means slow down and work better. Same as jiu-jitsu. If you watch a fight, when someone, like my job, if I was going to fight anybody, is to take them somewhere they didn't know and make them rush. My job is literally to make someone panic, because when we panic, we make bad decisions. One of the things about the self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu is if someone jumps on my back, there's no panic in me, because it's happened, I don't know, like 3,000 or 4,000 times. If somebody knocks me to the ground and gets on top of me, still no panic. I'll be on the ground, I'll cover up, I will be defensive, and I will work my way out of the position. That's the similarity, which is panic and rushing makes us stupid, gets us into more and more and more trouble. And to be calm, to have a system, to have a process, doesn't.
Boom. I think we're ending on that, my friend. Once again, it's been beyond a pleasure to meet you. And I have an immense amount of gratitude for you taking the time today to share your diamond and your stories. And like I said, I hyped you up in the beginning and you probably exceeded expectations, even knowing that we're in for a good show. So
well, thank you. And I will say, if anyone has any other questions, don't send them to my mother address, but Mr. Joe Staples at Gmail. I won't answer them today, but I will answer them.
You're too kind. All right, everyone, that's our show. We got Malika Reed next week. Joe Staples, thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good rest of the day.